It's Friday, folks. You know what that means. Time for another Quick Queries Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. Today, we're going to talk about that lazy habit that's quietly bloating your Microsoft Access queries and wasting network bandwidth. And I'll be honest, I'm guilty of this myself sometimes. This is especially noticeable if you've got a big database that you're pulling over a network wire or you're using SQL Server online, right? Anytime you're dealing with a database across a network or across the internet, this is going to be a big problem. Today's question comes from Kendra in Shreveport, Louisiana, one of my platinum members. Kendra says, some of my forms and reports are very slow, even though they don't have a lot of records. Others run fast with no issues. What could be causing certain forms or reports to load or run so slowly? Now, questions like this are very difficult to diagnose without seeing the database. And I don't accept file attachments, but what I sometimes do with my platinum members, is I say, post, give me some screenshots, post some images of your design view. Let me see your queries. Let me see your form design. And if you can't post it in the forums, email me some screenshots. I'll take a look. Sometimes. Don't everybody do that now, because I get too much email as it is. Now, one of the reasons why Kendra didn't want to post screenshots on my website is because her database is proprietary. Boss obviously wouldn't want some of that being made public, but I mocked it up here in my Tech Help database to illustrate the point. Let me show you a couple pictures and see if you can figure out what might be slowing down her queries, which are slowing down the forms if the form's based on a query, right? Here's number one. Here's number two. And here's number three. See if you can figure it out. Pause the video and see if you can figure out what might be slowing things down. Did you get it? Did you figure it out? It's that star. It's that asterisk that says, give me everything you've got. So even if your table only has, a dozen or so records, but each one of those records has 50 fields in it, by you saying, give me that star, you're saying, give me all of the fields. Right? And this, across multiple tables especially, can add up to a lot. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is just get the fields you need to be displayed either in your query or in your form. Right? Here, for example, don't use all of those asterisks. Just get what you need. The customer ID, the first name, the last name, maybe the order date is paid, product name and quantity. If those are the fields you're using, just get those fields. Don't get them all. Order detail team. Now, sometimes you've got a small table with only a handful of fields, and if you need all of these, that's fine. Get the asterisk, and this is a calculated one. This one might be okay as is, right? But take a look and make sure you need all these fields, and if you do, use the star. Technically, when I build a database, I usually start with the star, and then I'll go back later when I'm trying to optimize performance, and then I'll say, okay, what fields am I actually using? And then I'll get rid of the star and put all the individual fields in. Sometimes you need the star, though. Sometimes, and always try, if you've got multiple tables, always try to only use the star from one of those tables. It just improves performance. I don't know why, it just does. If you bring in multiple stars like that first example, it really slows things down. And this guy, again, same problem, bringing in all the fields when you're only using some of them. You're only using customer ID, first name, last name, state, customer status, and credit limit. Continuous forms, especially over a network, limit the number of fields you're pulling. And don't just pull the star, and don't just pull from the table like that. That can also slow things down, right? Make a select statement in here or a query and just pull the fields in that you need. I know I teach the beginners to put the table name in here, but that's for beginners. Once you get a little more advanced, just pull in the fields that you need. And Kendra put in the little changes that I suggested, and guess what? Everything's running a lot faster. Probably about 50% faster now. So glad I could help. And there you go. Hope that helps someone else. Here's one from the forum on my website. David said, I have a list of addresses, and some addresses have leading zeros like that. Right? In order for it to match up with another table, I got to remove the leading zeros from in front of the address. Is there a formula I can include in a query to take care of this? And Kevin pointed him to my string functions video, which I'll give you a link to in a minute. But yeah, absolutely. Here's a query equation that you can use. Say your new string is use the if function, right? If the left of s being whatever your field is, comma 1 equals a 0, and the zero's got to be in quotes like that. It's a text string. This is a text field. right? It couldn't have an N if it wasn't, or spaces in it. So if that left one character is 0, then your new field will be the right of S, length of S minus 1. That says chop off everything except the right X minus 1 characters. So it basically gets rid of that left 1 character. All right. I'll put a link to my string functions video and the if function down below. And if you want to permanently change all of them, use an update query and just feed this into the update query. Right? Just give it that equation. It'll go through the entire list of all the records and change any one that has a leading 0 to not have that leading 0. Okay? Here's another question from Ryan. Ryan says, I'm bringing my customer list into Access via an ODBC link table to Access. Open Database Connectivity, right? ODBC. That's when you can connect to a different data source. When this table comes in, QuickBooks has already assigned a customer ID, shipping address ID, billing address ID, and parent ref ID. For any sub-customers, the ID is assigned by QuickBooks are short text, and I'm not sure if it's important to get IDs in an auto number format. Is it best practice to import this link table into Access to work with, or should I just set my relationships through the linked table? And Sammy gave him some advice, and Sammy's advice is right on. It all depends on what you do and what other information you're bringing in from QuickBooks. Okay, and I chimed in. I said, if you're syncing the data with QuickBooks, in other words, you're opening up a connection to QuickBooks and then importing any new data or change data into your database, then I would keep the QuickBooks ID and just assign your own auto number to each person in your table, but store theirs as a reference. In other words, keep their ID, but you can also create your own for anything that you do in your database that's just your stuff. Like if you want to match that up with a contact table or something else that you've got, a to-do list for them, right? If that's in your database, you can have both. There's nothing wrong with having both IDs, a natural key and a surrogate key, for example. And this way, every time you do an import, you just match up the QuickBooks ID and you can get their new information, right? If you're working with a live copy of their data, in other words, your Access database is just working live with their customer data, then just work with their ID. Don't worry about assigning your own ID because you got a linked table at that point. First up, I got to acknowledge a funny comment on YouTube. SSDUSD said, "This best information I've ever known in my life." Wow. Okay, thanks. I got a chuckle out of that. That's the best information ever. All right, cool. Zvig says, "What do you think about making a database map out new database like you use an Excel spreadsheet to design the database?" Yeah, that's exactly what I do in a lot of my classes. I do that in my Access Beginner 1 class. I do that in a lot of my series that I do, like the association database, right? You can see right back here. There's an Excel spreadsheet. I map out all the tables and the fields and the relationships. I talk about it in my regular course. So yeah, that's a great idea, and I do it a lot. This one goes back a couple of weeks to my happy birthday Excel video I did. It says, Excel has all those cells, but doesn't let me enter more than 100,000 rows. I'm going to stop right there. You shouldn't be anywhere near 100,000 rows in Excel. If you got over, I'm going to say a couple of hundred rows, you should be thinking Microsoft Access. You should be thinking database at that point. 100,000 rows in a spreadsheet is just asking for trouble. Okay? Sanch023 says, "I love this stuff. Please keep doing this forever. Every day I look forward to a new video." Yeah, I have no plans on quitting anytime soon. I think I've often said this, even if I won the lottery or became independently wealthy or whatever, I would probably still do this just because I enjoy it. I have fun doing this every day myself. So you keep watching, I'll keep making. Dardiv says, "I had an idea inspired by another community I follow. In the mechanical watch world, there's a YouTuber who publishes videos where collectors show their own watch collections. I think something similar could be great here too. Community members could share their Access databases, either showing how they structured them or just the design layout choices they made. It could be really inspiring to see real-world solutions." Just an idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. In fact, on my website, I encourage my users to post screenshots. Let us see your database. Not just if you have problems or need help, but just if you want to show it off. I love to see what my students have built using my lessons. It puts a smile on my face every time. The problem with YouTube is that you can't post images in the comments here. So there's no way for you to post stuff like that unless you post your own video. So if you guys would like to do that, if you want to post your own little videos or, links to screenshots that you've made that have your databases that you've built. If I like them, I'd be happy to do a video montage or a collection of all the best ones. But yeah, sure, absolutely, great idea. Next up, Moro asks, I'd like to ask you a question about the if function. I have a query that worked perfectly with 2 if functions. Is it possible to replace the false argument so that it doesn't appear in the query? I think I understand what you're trying to say. You want to say that if the answer to your if function is false, then you don't want to see that record, right? Is that what you're trying to do? If that's the case, yes, you can do that, but you can't do it in that query. Save that query, right, with all of your records, true and false, then make another query that just shows the ones where it's not false. Right? So if let's say you're asking for a number of children, for example, hypothetically, right? You want to see all the 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, whatever. But if it's a 0, then just show all the records where it's not equal to 0. Do the same thing with the if function. So save your query, then make another query that's based on that query, and just make the criteria not 0. Make sense? All right. If you can't figure it out, let me know. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video on this one. Kate says, oh my goodness, thank you. It's almost impossible to figure out what you can actually buy from Microsoft. I'm still successfully running Office 2003, if you can believe it, but I'm trying to move on. She's replying to my How to Buy Access 2025 edition. Yeah, Microsoft is confusing as blank when it comes to marketing their products. I will be the first to admit, I'm a Microsoft MVP myself. I love Microsoft. I've been promoting and teaching Microsoft products for 30 years. And even I still don't know what they're doing as far as marketing their products go. They got this version, that version, home edition, professional edition. It used to be so much simpler. It used to be years ago. I wish they'd go back to that. And hey, Office 2003, that was one of my favorite editions. I loved that one. Before 2007 came out, I was one of those people who really resisted 2007 because I hated the ribbon when it first came out. In fact, if you're still running 2003, that's going to be your biggest stumbling block, moving to Access and Excel and all that, is the ribbon. But I didn't believe this at the time, but trust me, once you get used to the ribbon, it is much, much better than the old menus, the file edit view with all the, the toolbar, a million toolbars. The ribbon it's dynamic, so it'll change based on what you're doing. And once you get used to it, it is really nice. So that was a positive upgrade. But at the time, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I wanted a way to go back. And I'm glad I dealt with it and figured it out. But yes, Microsoft needs to be a lot more straightforward with their packaging. Why can't they just do for Microsoft Office, do the Home Edition and the Business Edition, right? Home's got the simple things, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever. Business has the extra things like Access and SharePoint, whatever else you need for business, right? It's too complicated, too many editions. Next up, Ryan de Guzman says, these videos are so cool. Okay, I've got it working in my database. He's talking about the filter as you type. And that's where as you type letters into a combo box, the combo box results themselves filter, so the list gets shorter. So if you type in chicken, for example, you'll just see the records that have chicken in them. It makes things more intuitive. I've got a table of 2,300 ingredients, but I do have a problem. When I start typing the ingredient and the drop down of options appear, I want to use the down arrow to choose which ingredient from the drop down instead of using the mouse. Okay, that is correct. The database, as you've got it right now from that video, will not allow you to do that. I did come up with a solution, and it's covered in my fitness database series. Now, I'm pretty sure lesson 40, yes, 40, covers that. You don't have to watch all of them, although I do recommend you watch all of them. But I do teach you how to fix that, how to ignore arrow key presses in the combo box events, and that way you can handle them yourself. Ignoring it means you're not going to let Access process it. You deal with going up and down yourself. It's either this one or one of the two around it, but everyone looks at fitness database and they're like, I don't care about fitness. I don't want to track calories. Yeah, I get that, but that's not the point. The point of this series is to teach you guys cool database stuff. And the fitness database is just something that I'm building mostly for myself. And I'm showing you guys cool tricks along the way, like this one. It's got the filter as you type built into it. It unions two tables together. So you've got all your meals and all of your food items in one combo box. What you type in can appear anywhere in there. So if you type in chicken, for example, you'll see chicken, chicken, chicken. This one's got chicken over here. So it doesn't have to be at the start of the combo box, which is how they work. And I teach you how to use the arrow keys to be able to go up and down and then press enter on the one you want. So that's covered. It's either this lesson or like 39 or 41, but this, I did a search for combo box and this one came up. So it's right around here somewhere. I'll put a link to this one down below for you. But yeah, watch the fitness series. There's tons and tons of really good tricks in there. I'm giving away too many free tricks in here. I should be putting these in my developer lessons, but I've already covered them in most of my developer lessons. So have a nice day says, yes, me likey. Me likey too. This is one of my Word videos. Believe it or not, I've got just a handful of Word videos, and they get more views than a lot of my Access videos do. That's why I got to kick myself in the butt one of these days and just re-record all my Access or my Word stuff. Because there's 50 times the number of Word viewers out there or Excel viewers than there are Access viewers. I love my little Access group, but I'm surprised all the time how many views these old Word videos get. And that's from like Word 2007 too. Well, maybe not this one, but some of them are. John shared his story with me in relation to why so many IT pros hate Access. He said he had a glorious 35-year career, mostly developing Access VBA. Bought a house in Toronto. I love Toronto, one of my favorite cities. Raised a family solely on my Access income. How bad can it be? No, it's not. Access is wonderful. I started my career as far as with development with Access, and I've been teaching almost Access exclusively for what, 10, 15 years now, just Access, with a few other here and there, Excel, whatever. Every time I thought my Access days were numbered, something popped up. In 2015, I had a contract to perm hire. The bank chased after me specifically for my Access skills, still there 10 years later. Unfortunately, they've been shying away from Access for the last couple of years, but I still have a few core Access databases they can't drop. Yeah, that's the story I get from a lot of places. There's hundreds of thousands of businesses out there, both big and small, that still use Access databases. And a lot of them are like, well, we want to go cloud, we want to go this, we want to do that. And they don't realize that you can do all of that, and there's no reason to have to get rid of your Access databases. They think that these Access databases are just for some small, departmental thing, but they don't have to be. If you want to go cloud, sure, take your data out of that Access database and put it in SQL, right? SQL Server. That's fine. Then from there, you can branch off. You can build a web-based interface. You can build a Power App for your mobile phone devices. But there's no reason to get rid of Access for your desktop users. You're still going to have people in the office that still need to get into that database, and there's no better rapid application development tool than Access as a front-end database designer, right? You can't beat it. And that's what I tell people all the time. Oh, my company's moving away from Access. Why? Right? Why? Yeah, you want to get your data up into SQL Server. You want to build something for the cloud? Sure. Add that on. There's no reason to drop Access completely. Anyways, that's my frustration. But John, thank you very much for sharing your story. And I used to live in Buffalo, New York, so I've spent a lot of time in Toronto. Been to many Blue Jays games, a couple Maple Leafs games, several Rush concerts up there. Love that city. It's wonderful. There's nothing like walking up and down Yonge Street on a negative 35-degree day. So, and the nice thing about Toronto is you can go through most of the city underground without ever having to go up into the negative 35-degree weather. So Stuart says, if you're proficient in VBA, SQL, etc., then using PHP and MySQL really isn't that much of a leap. The logic, writing functions queries, and if statements are really very similar. You do have to recreate from scratch because not only do you have functionality to deal with, but there's presentation too via CSS. And if you really want things to run nicely, some JavaScript or jQuery. I notice you always talk about SQL Server rather than MySQL. Any reason for the preference? Most websites seem to run on MySQL, and it works fine as a backend for Access in my experience. So just a few settings to tweak. No, not really. It's just personal preference. I know that MySQL really got popular because for many, many years, decades, in fact, I think, MySQL is open source, and so anyone could use it, right? PHP and MySQL have been basically free. You run an Apache server, too, and now you're really cheap. Whereas if you wanted to go with the Microsoft ecosystem, you had to run a Windows server, which cost money. You had to run SQL Server, which for the longest time cost money. They didn't have a free edition, I don't think, until relatively recently. And remember, I'm old, so when I say relatively recently, I think it was around like 2000, let me look it up, 2005 was when SQL Server Express first came out. So before that, like the early days of the web, you couldn't run Microsoft. So when I started, web developing, and I got into SQL because I had an SQL server. I had my own web server, so I was able to run SQL Server. But now that the free version's out there, and Windows hosting is pretty cheap, I've always just stuck with SQL Server because I'm a Microsoft guy. It's the same reason why I use Excel and Word instead of the old days when I used to use WordPerfect and Lotus. So no real preference. That's just my choice. I used MySQL years and years ago, and I had issues connecting access to it. But like you said, there's probably a few settings to tweak, and I gave up and just went back to SQL Server. So it's just me. No real reason. I hear it's a fine piece of software. Going back to the why do people hate access, CBBCBB, whatever. I think I got that right. I never liked the table creation wizard. It should look more like the one that Visual Fox Pro had. I used Visual Fox Pro back in the 90s, way, way back when, so I don't remember it. But honestly, I've never used a table creation wizard. Building a table is always something that I've done manually. I just think that that's something that doesn't really need a wizard, right? But I'll be honest, even form wizards, I don't like them. I like to lay the fields out myself. Some of the wizards are okay, like the combo box wizard I'll use from time to time. Or, the command button wizard for beginners is fine. But I've never used a table creation wizard. So, I don't know. Beaming in. Jay says it's inferior to SQL Server. I think he means access is inferior to SQL Server. And the same thing it is used for can be achieved in SharePoint. I disagree 100%. First of all, saying that access is inferior to SQL Server is like saying that a Ferrari is inferior to a cruise ship, right? They both have different purposes. You want to go fast, you drive a Ferrari. You want to bring a lot of people someplace in style, you use a cruise ship. Access is a front-end designer. It's for building an interface, right? The database behind it is SQL Server, optionally. Right, so saying that one is inferior to the other, there are two different tools used for, one common purpose. You use access to build your forms and reports, and you build all your, tables and queries and stuff in SQL Server. And as far as saying the same thing can be achieved in SharePoint, no. SharePoint, I've used SharePoint. It has far less flexibility and capability that Microsoft Access does when it comes to building something for the desktop. Okay, yeah, you can use SharePoint in a web browser, but it's got nowhere near as much functionality as Access does, as far as VBA and data control and all that stuff. So again, SharePoint is fine, but it's a different tool. SharePoint is, mostly for using, for connecting to SQL Server, for example, in your web browser. Or you can use SharePoint lists, but I don't like SharePoint lists either. They got problems. So thanks for the feedback, but no. I have to disagree with you, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree. And finally today, Gregory has a suggestion for the user back from Quick Queries 56. See, sometimes these get buried, and I don't even see them. I've got thousands and thousands of comments that I haven't yet to get to. I'm trying to get to all of them, but it's like as I go through, a few dozen new ones, there's just more ones keep coming in. So I love it. Keep posting comments, folks. I love it. But as you can see here, this one's a month old already because I start with the newest ones and go backwards every week. And so I don't always get to the older ones. But Gregory says, suggestion for the user with conditional formatting issues. Conditional formatting is glitchy if the field backstyle is transparent. Yes, I've noticed that too. So make sure that your field's backstyle is a solid color. Don't use transparent. Otherwise, conditional formatting will glitch out. So, Gregory, thanks for sharing. And whoever that user was, I hope you see this, because you should be watching all of my videos, right, including this one. So, if not, you're not getting that help. but thanks, Gregory. And with that, we're going to call it, folks. That's it. That's your tech help video for today. Hope you learned something. Live long and prosper, my friends. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button right now and give me a like. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, which is completely free, and make sure you click that bell icon and select all to receive notifications whenever I post a new video. Do you need help with your Microsoft Access project? Whether you need a tutor, a consultant, or a developer to build something for you, check out my Access Developer Network. It's a directory I put together personally of Access experts who can help with your project. Visit my website to learn more. Any links or other resources that I mentioned in the video can be found in the description text below the video. Just click on that Show More link right there. YouTube's pretty good about hiding that, but it's there. Just look for it. Now, if you have not yet tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, tables, all that stuff. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or my YouTube channel. I'll include a link below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? And if you like Level 1, Level 2 is just $1. That's it. And it's free for members of my YouTube channel at any level. Speaking of memberships, if you're interested in joining my channel, you get all kinds of awesome perks. Silver members get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, and there's hundreds of them by now. They also get one free beginner class each month, and yes, those are from my full courses. Gold members get the previous perks plus access to download all of the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos. Plus, you get access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions and all kinds of source code that I use. And gold members get one free expert class every month after completing the beginner series. Platinum members get all of the previous perks, plus they get all of my beginner courses, all of them from every subject. And you get one free advanced or developer class every month after finishing the expert series. And you can become a diamond sponsor and have your name listed on the sponsor page on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time.